you can't check your six. It's kind of like, taking a screwdriver to a gunfight. What's happening? Just like on top.
Hans did it last time, Aaron, your turn.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Steven See It All, our friendly podcast where we look at every single Steven Seagal film. And if you want to see the extra stuff, you got to join the Patreon.
Which surely will exist.
Today we are talking... I'm working on that Patreon hard. Today we are talking about the 1990 Steven Seagal vehicle, Hard to Kill. The second of Steven Seagal's 50 films. We're making progress.
You're not going to say your name?
Surely.
Oh, yeah. I am Aaron.
I'm Hans.
And I'm Zach.
And
I guess.
what are our general impressions of this movie?
Well, real quick, before we get going, I just want to let you both know that I tried to buy StevenSeeItAll.com, but I can't get the login info to my GoDaddy account. So I'm going to have to make sure that I get that purchased before we release these.
Yes.
Okay, sure. And then if we decide on another, Overwatch, whatever, some other kind of title, get that too, just to be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then StevenSeeItAll.com can redirect,
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay. Yeah. But I appreciate that can-do attitude, Hans, that real go-getter mentality, real team player. I think Hans just has an addiction to buying URL domain names.
I only own one.
I feel like you're buying a new one every time I talk to you.
I only own one domain. It's my domain, HansSchriner.com.
Okay.
I tried to get Hans.com. It is for sale, but the person that was negotiating it, they told me that they thought I should start the negotiations at $15,000 and go up from there, and I said, no.
No.
What happened to Hans.pizza?
I would so much rather have Hans.com. Could you imagine how cool that would
that's
be?
Fair. That's fair. All right, so Aaron, let's do a quick recap.
Okay,
more competently than I did last episode, and then we'll go right into our
quick
thoughts and impressions.
synopsis of Steven Seagal's Hard to Kill. Steven Seagal
You mean
plays...
Steven Seagal is hard to kill.
Steven Seagal is very hard to kill in this movie, which is kind of the whole theme.
You remember, and we were talking about in the last one, how it's like the whole theme is that he is above the law, and then at the very end of the movie, he's not above the law, and he doesn't think people should be above the law. It's funny, because Zach, you were telling me that all of his early movies are supposed to be said like Steven Seagal is blank. Steven Seagal is above the law. Doesn't really make sense in that context, because again, it reinforces he was above the law.
I think
so. We'll get to this later. This is a tease for episode 4. They do actually have there was. Not network, that's not the right term. They did have studio mandated rules at that point for his films. They were sticking to a theme there. I think it accidentally became they all work with Steven Seagal is blank, but they do actually have legit rules that we'll get to later on.
Yes, but let's talk about the plot real quick.
Yes.
Quick plot synopsis of Steven Seagal's Hard to Kill.
I remember this one much
Steven Seagal
better.
plays Michael Scarn, who needs to protect the All-Star game from terror. No, wait. I'm sorry, that's Threat Level Midnight, which if you've seen Threat Level Midnight, you have seen Hard to Kill. In my personal opinion, they are basically the same energy. But in reality, Steven Seagal plays Mason Storm, an LA cop who is investigating something. Corruption. And he gets...
The docks.
Yeah.
He's investigating a mob meeting.
Yes, he takes a video recording of a mob meeting, which it should have been immediately obvious who was at this meeting, but he's not quite sure for some reason. And he hides
it was dark.
video. It was dark, rainy, kind of wet, but he does do karate against a couple guys in this opening sequence because it's a Steven Seagal movie.
Good.
He gets away. He hides away. He makes some copies of this videotape.
He doesn't make any copies. He stores it in his house.
Right.
He puts it in a secret cabinet.
Secrets away a videotape of a mob meeting where they plan to kill a senator. We have a theme here already. 2 movies in a row. There's a plot to kill a senator. And then he is presumably killed. His whole family dies.
There's dirty cops keeping tabs on him, so they tell
Yes.
the mob, and the mob kills him and his family. And also, again, his partner.
Yes.
If you're his partner, you're dying in the first like 10 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, his partner dies in like the first 10 minutes. He is put into a coma, where he is looked after by a sassy black lady and a really horny nurse, because it's 1990.
And this is his dream of just like, if Steven Seagal was in a hospital, of course, like everyone would be thirsting after him. And all the nurses would just be like, oh, I can't wait till he wakes up.
Yeah, so he spends 7 years in a coma. 7 years.
Was it really 7 years?
7 years in a coma. Yeah, the opening sequence takes place in 1983, and the rest of the movie takes place in the present of 1990.
Got it.
So he spends
it
7 years.
It jumps ahead to like modern day, which I thought was
so he spends 7 years in a coma, and during which time they give him like a Fu Manchu while he's in his hospital.
No, we'll get to that.
No, it's even better than
the
that.
whole hospital scene. There's so much to talk about there. We'll get to it.
We'll get to that.
And then after some slapstick hijinks, he
literally,
like it's like it's like
he's like
turns into a
hitting
comedy.
things with a broom.
He heals himself using ancient Chinese medicine, in some Orientalism kind of thing.
Well, the nurse helps him get away in her Ford Mustang.
Yes. And there's like a great chase sequence through an open field.
And then they go to a place she's just house sitting.
Oh, yeah, and she happens to be house sitting at like this mansion out in the middle of nowhere. That happens to have
training grounds / dojo.
Yeah, that happens to have all of the necessary equipment for him to complete an ancient Chinese healing ritual.
/ training regimen to get back to his peak.
Wikipedia
condition.
tells me is called Moxibustion. Moxibustion.
Yeah, of course.
Burning particular kinds of mugwort and incense at chi points on your body. He actually, in this movie, stabs himself with acupuncture needles and lights them on fire.
Right, as you do.
It's fairly
to
interesting.
be fair, if you're a 17-year-old in 1990, that's probably
pretty rad, actually.
That's pretty rad. The knockoff Jason Momoa beard is not cool.
Yes, and then
We'll
he
get
has
there.
to.
We'll
It's
get
been
there.
7 years. There was a murder in his house. He has to sneak into his own home by lying to a whole bunch of people.
Well, no, they find
the
him. They
videotape.
find him at the place where he's getting like rehabilitated. Luckily, they only find him after he's fully rehabilitated.
Yes, of
After
course,
this
he
this
is-
amazing
destroy
training
his
montage,
rebuild his body, in which he like punches boards and like ropes
Okay,
and
so
stuff.
again,
Rocky-esque running up a mountain.
Every movie I will give a dumb point that is completely meaningless. Last one was when he did turn in his badge and his gun. This one I do have to give like the training / rehabilitation montage. That gets a Zach point for me this time.
Wow,
Does it?
really?
It was awful.
Like
I thought it was really
no, it was off. No, it's awful. It's not good. But like it, like you said, it's just like they saw Rocky. They said, "Oh, Rocky has a training montage." A movie like this, the guy recovering for his big fight needs a training montage.
When did Rocky come out? Was it before this?
Hopefully. Yeah, it had to have come out before this. Yeah, because this was 90. Rocky definitely.
Oh, that was 76.
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's how much I know about movies.
Also, though, something we need to touch on here, something very important.
Yes.
In the opening scene, his son does escape, and his son is still alive, and we find out that his son is being cared for by one of his friends.
Oh, that's right.
Because he does not factor into like the first 2/3 of the movie, but
No.
he will very lightly factor into.
That's right. Like right before the baddies find him at the ranch house, he has his like cop buddy comes and tells them that they.
Yeah. So, and I think this begins a theme that we will see in later movies of like a cop buddy who is willing to break all the rules to help him.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
yeah, like he's
right.
working
You're
against the
very
system, but actually the other people in the system are kind of cool with his whole rampage too.
They hate the people in the system hate the system too.
They're like, no, you're right, actually.
But they're not allowed to break the rules of the system. Only Seagal is. They have to give him permission to break the rules of the system.
Yes. So then eventually he finds out who was at this mob meeting, and it was a senator, because 2 movies in a row there's a plot about killing a senator, and now there's a senator who is becoming powerful by using mob connections and stuff. So we have a lot of themes going on through Seagal's work so far. And then he breaks into the senator's home.
Themes, at least. We have the imitation of themes.
Yeah, there's. Oh, I think that's like a great way to describe it. The imitation of theme. There's an attempt at a theme. And he finally breaks into the senator's home, which is like this gigantic palatial mansion where he's like hanging out with presumably prostitutes in his hot tub.
This is the kind of beginning, so something you'll see, especially in these early ones that we've watched so far in the first 4, the amount of naked or half-naked women increases with every movie. So you're starting to see this here.
I have a lot to say about that for Out for Justice once we get to movie number 4. I have a lot to say about this.
But this is where we start to see it. Yep. We got the women in the hot tub. It gets so much worse from here on out, but you start to see it increase from the last movie.
No, I think actually, and we'll get into themes in a minute, but I think Hard to Kill is where the theme really begins.
No, for sure.
And it becomes more overt in the later movies so far, but I think here's where it really begins. So then eventually, like, he's holding a senator at gunpoint after having broken like every law in existence about violence. But the cops are cool with it because they found the copy of the tape where the senator openly admits to plotting to murder another senator. And that's the movie. And then it just kind of ends.
He's like reunited with his son.
Yeah, he's reunited with his son, and they show the tape on the news.
Yeah. And I will say, so in the original ending,
sunset.
There was a different original ending, which you do see in the theatrical trailer, where he just kills the guy.
Yeah,
where like they don't expose him or anything. He just like murders the dude, and then he attends the funeral for his partner his friend who had been taking care of his son.
Yeah. Oh, the senator. So here's something that happens in a lot of these movies. The senator, when he's captured, is like in a bathrobe, right?
Sure.
Yeah, he was. He was. Sure. I forgot about that.
Which happens in like a lot of movies from this period, and I would love to investigate this theme of like evil villains in bathrobes at the moment of their death or capture.
I don't know if theme's the right word.
Trope.
This kind of weird thing.
So very specific trope. I remember it specifically from Tim Burton's Batman, 1989, when the Joker kills
excellent film.
The mob boss, which I want to call Falcone, but I'm pretty sure it was not Falcone.
Falcone's the Dark Knight mob boss?
Yeah, well, he's a Batman mob boss. He's from the comics. But anyway.
So we can just call him Falcone. That's
I don't think it's Falcone.
I mean, maybe it could have been. I don't know.
But there's like some sort of mob boss that the Joker used to work for, and he comes back and he kills him, and he's wearing a bathrobe. And I don't like in a lot of movies from the late 80s, early 90s, villains are defeated while wearing a bathrobe.
Do you have a third one?
Actually, the Watchmen comic.
Okay. And so the Zack Snyder Watchmen movie will also have that, I guess. Right?
Which is set in the same era.
Although that does happen at the beginning. I assume you're talking about, spoiler alert, the comedian being thrown out the window.
Yeah, comedian is thrown out the window in a bathrobe.
What if this is just a Watchmen podcast? We could be talking about Watchmen instead of Steven Seagal.
We could be talking about way better media.
Now we could do a Watchmen podcast. Okay. So, what were our thoughts on Hard to Kill?
Yeah, general thoughts. Go.
So we have to address the Fu Manchu. We said we'd come back to it. The hospital scene. He's like 7 years later. He's shown like real rough. He has this crazy long hair and this like really long mustache, hair. But there's no sideburns and there's no beard. It's just the Fu Manchu.
Someone has been coming over with a razor.
Yeah, she's been taking care of him this whole time, making sure that he's like, weirdly falling in love with this man in a coma. And she's been cleaning him, but she hasn't cut his hair. She hasn't cut his mustache, just his chops and his beard, so that he keeps the weird long Fu Manchu.
And we do need to say it is a good thing that later on in this movie he cuts that out. Otherwise, Jason Momoa would not have had a chance. If this had stayed for more than one movie, Jason Momoa would be like knockoff Steven Seagal. Like we can thank, Jason should be thanking his lucky stars
Really?
Yeah, that Seagal cut this off so he would not be labeled as knockoff Seagal.
He really, Zach and I both like sat up and we had to pause it and go back because we were like, no, that definitely looks like a weirdly amount like Jason Momoa.
Because when I watch Dune and you see Jason Momoa without the beard, it's wrong. It's not good. Jason Momoa is so much better with the beard. So he is lucky that Seagal did not like that. You look at this now and you think Seagal is knockoff Jason Momoa. And not the other way around because Seagal got for multiple movies. That would be such a much worse timeline for us to be living in.
Yeah.
So I am not going to say this movie was actually any better, but I did have a much better time with this versus the first one.
Really?
It was much less convoluted in the plot. Guy it gets shot by a bad guy, goes into coma, goes on a revenge spree to get back at the people who are hunting him down. Like, it's not complicated. It was also very entertaining.
You think he's going to get away, but then they bust him.
Because the nurse that falls in love with him is Kelly LeBrock, which at the time was his wife, who he cheated on constantly. Like, made her life a living hell.
Even worse, Kelly LeBrock, who he married, while currently married to another woman who he just abandoned with child in Japan. He was married to a woman living in Japan when he then married Kelly LeBrock, whom he then also cheated.
This is why I do not look up anyone's personal lives on these films.
So
I don't know anything about their personal lives. I am just looking at this piece of art. Like, death of all
art is a really loose term.
From the artist here, Seagal,
Another thing, Kelly LeBrock is an American actress. Her
couldn't tell.
I don't say anything about parents. She's not British, and she has a British accent in this movie, and it's terrible. And it was, I just can't fathom the whole time Zach and I were talking nonstop. I just can't understand who made that character choice and why they let her stick with it. Or I shouldn't say why, that assumes she made it. Someone made that character choice and someone let that person who made that decision stick with it.
And they did the screen test. She tried the accent and nobody said no. They said, yep, sounds good, Kelly.
I think this is an unfair thing of me to say. But I really think from the get-go, Steven Seagal was using at least part of these movies to fulfill some weird fetishes.
Oh, 100%. That's why there are consistently more and more naked women in them.
100%.
No, we'll get into how specific it gets.
But specifically for but this one, that it's the British nurse like fawning over wishing he'd wake up because he has such an amazing
No, I gotcha. You're right.
British nurse.
No, because she says,
and especially
there's so
given
much for you to live for, and then lifts up the blanket covering it.
And I think to also give it credit, the fact that it is his current wife, that he's like, I'm going to cast my wife in this movie and have her be this like British nurse that just like can only think about how amazing and like sexy I am.
Yeah, no, you know what? You are right on the money. You're both 100%
but no,
right.
we're 2 episodes in. I think of this little, they deserve so much better than this corner that we are going to have. I think she's already, she's shot up to the number 1 on the list. Kelly LeBrock is the winner of the Deserve So Much Better
absolutely.
actor or actress that stars in the Steven Seagal movie.
Better.
Given the fact that this was not just her career, also her life. She deserves so much better than this. Kelly LeBrock, you were fantastic in Weird Science.
Right?
Where you do not have a terrible British accent, in my recollection. That was a good call. John Hughes made a good call there.
I think Steven Seagal just wanted to make a movie where he lets everybody know that he sleeps with the woman from Weird Science.
Honestly,
was she in Weird Science at the time?
But she's British in this one. Hard to Kill came out in 1990. Weird Science came out
1985.
Yeah, that was 85.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
That was the woman from Weird Science, the most perfect dream woman that science can create. That he says, I got her and I made her a nurse and British.
Literally, the whole plot of Weird Science is that this woman is too perfect, she must be fake. That's the whole point of the movie. And he says, she's mine, and makes a whole movie about it. Also, okay, let's just talk about this relationship for a second. Because I want to talk about how the character
the biggest quotes.
would have experienced all this. So from the character's
perspective... when we were watching this, we had the same reaction.
From the character's perspective, his wife died this morning.
Yes. Yes, his wife died, and then the next thing he knows, he's waking up, and he is in love, or at least in relations with this nurse, the day of or the day after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a problem, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was an immediate reaction while we were watching. That you're just no time passed.
Yeah, no, from his perspective, like, nothing happened. He saw his family murdered, and then went into a coma, and then woke up, and then slept with a British nurse.
Yes. So also kind of included in this, actors who would go on to do great things later on.
Oh yeah, let's continue this theme.
So we have William Sadler, who stars in some Bill and Ted movies, Shawshank Redemption as one of the convicts, Die Hard 2. Oh yeah, that's right, he was in Die Hard 2.
Yeah.
So William Sadler would go on to do so much better after this. You have Frederick Coffin, starring in... Ooh, what all do we have here? Wayne's World, all right.
Party on.
Party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth. Actually, he doesn't have too much else to that.
No. I mean, IMDb considers this his biggest film.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, Frederick Coffin. Maybe you
deserves better.
So,
Dean Norris.
the actual come from behind secret, shadowy person, like I was giving to, why am I blanking on his name last episode? Will Ferrell's friend. John C. Reilly.
Oh, yeah.
So the John C. Reilly of this film has to be Dean Norris on screen for, I think, less than 5 seconds.
Yes.
He is just...
He plays just a guy at a desk.
But...
He just gets the call that they intercept, that they know he's awake, so they can go try to kill him at the hospital.
But no,
Dean Norris, Uncle Hank cameo.
But this same year... same year that Hard to Kill came out, he was in Total Recall, and in the next year, he was in Terminator 2.
And then what was Starship Troopers after that? I mean, no, okay, but... Having said that, that is true.
Yeah.
I can guarantee when Hans and I watched this movie, he popped up, we said, Uncle Hank. When he popped up,
we had to confirm. We had to look it up.
I know, like 100%.
When he popped up, did you say, oh, that's the guy from Terminator 2 and Total Recall, or did you say Uncle
No,
Hank?
absolutely. No, it was Uncle Hank. Uncle Hank,
thank you for showing up in this movie.
But immediately, like Hard to Kill, just like immediately, he started showing up in what would become incredibly famous movies. He was also in Gremlins 2.
So he didn't
Really?
So his was faster than like the 5-year mark that we were estimating.
He was in the Lawnmower Man.
The payoff here was immediate.
And
then here's Uncle Hank, and nothing else in between them.
No, he was in a few episodes of television. He was on an episode of the X-Files. Like he was just kind of like languishing in TV shows and like background characters in very famous movies. He was in Gattaca. Played a cop in Gattaca. He plays a lot of cops.
I mean, yeah.
He fits the bill. Does it really well.
He looks like a cop.
It's like Dean Norris and Michael Chiklis. Like, this is what they are.
I'm sorry, Dean Norris. You look like a cop.
I mean, he looks like DEA agent Hank Schrader.
He does. Man, he's really good at playing cops. He's played a lot of cops. I'm looking at his IMDb page. It's like mostly cops.
So Hard to Kill.
Yeah,
How
Hard
do we
to
feel
Kill.
about Hard to Kill? I think slightly better because it's just as dumb, but less stupidly convoluted.
This one holds a special place in my heart, specifically because we have to bring it up. And you knew this was coming. The single best moment in this entire movie has absolutely nothing to do with Steven Seagal. It's when they're in the two nurses are talking about him because he hasn't woken up from his coma yet. The woman who's in love with him is talking to the other nurse about like, I wonder if he'll ever wake up. And this woman goes, her name's Martha Coe, like sassy black woman, the best character in the entire movie. And she goes talking about how he like moved a little bit. And she said, I thought he was going to sit up. I almost It's like, not like I almost my pants. Not I like it was just I almost period. And it was just the perfect delivery. Could not have been better.
End of I almost.
Yeah, I could not replicate it if I tried a million times. It was so perfect. And the whole time she's saying it, she's holding a mug that says "Black by popular demand," and I've lost it. Just so perfect.
It's funny because they sandwich right there next to each other the absolute best line of the film next to the absolute worst, most abhorrent, obscene thing I've ever heard. When she holding the mug that says "Black by popular demand" and she says, "I almost," it's very funny. It's very great. We love you, Martha Coe. I don't know what you're doing these days. If you'd like to be a guest, please reach out to us.
What's the actress's name? I'll have to look it up.
Oh, wait, was Martha Koh not the actress's name?
No, that's the character.
Oh, no, I'm embarrassing myself in front of Martha Koh already. She's not going to want to come on the show. She's not even credited on Wikipedia. Come on.
Well, Geraldo Rivera was in this movie and he played himself.
Oh my God, you're right. Geraldo Rivera was in this movie.
Francesca Roberts.
Francesca Roberts. Please
Thank
forgive
you.
my boneheaded mistake. I don't know what you're doing these days. If you're still active, please come on our show. We would love to have you.
I don't know. She was in
Francesca
Legally
Roberts as
Blonde.
Martha Koh.
Well, she was also in
movie?
Super Mario Brothers. The poor woman.
What's
Wait,
wrong
Legally
with that?
Blonde Legally Blonde the movie or the musical?
Legally Blonde the movie and Super Mario Brothers the movie.
Okay, so you were in the second best interpretation of Legally Blonde. We would love to have you on the show. Please, I beg of you. You were the best part of this movie by far, of any Steven Seagal movie I've seen so far. But after the amazing line delivered by her, you have the worst line in, I think, any movie I've ever seen, when Kelly LeBrock's character a sleeping man says,
I forgot about this.
along the lines of, "Do you want a little pussy?" And then holds up a small kitten, which is not referenced before or after.
Nope.
Has no reason to be in the hospital other than
Nope.
they thought it was a funny joke that she says, "Would you like a little pussy?"
And there's
then holds up a cat, and that's it.
There's
And
a
that's,
solid
it's the worst thing
delay.
I've ever heard. Would you like a little pussy? Pause, just enough for you to think about what she said, just enough for you to hate and feel like you just need to go shower. And then she holds up the little cat, and that's it. That's the only time this cat exists.
And we come
And I
back to
hated
my
it.
theory that I think I think Steven Seagal was just trying to fulfill really specific fetishes while also making a movie on the side.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. This is not something I even thought about previously, but as soon as you said it, you're 100% right.
And I think as the movies go on, because again, we have 2 more movies to talk about in a little bit. I mean, we have like 48 more movies to talk about. But the next 2 movies, I think it becomes even more overt.
I mean, and I'm just going to say here, I'll take it one step further. I think he's only really interested in the prospects of making movies, so he can be in an advantageous position over actresses trying out for his movies and do bad things there, and then also getting to act out his fantasies and fetishes during the movie is like a neat side benefit of it.
Well, so because I want to say, like...
That's my theory.
I want this known. Right.
That's my libel and slander. Come after me.
He gets 2 sex scenes in this movie. The first one is with his like wife.
Mm-hmm. Before she's brutally murdered.
His very attractive
fictional wife, and then the second one is with his real one.
So like the actual sex scene that you like see a lot is early in the movie with his fake wife, who then is immediately brutally murdered.
Yep, this becomes a running theme.
Yeah, it's a disturbing theme, which we'll talk about later. But and then later in the movie, when he wakes up from his coma, from his perspective, like an hour later, he then has another sex scene with his actual real life wife, who I didn't know was his actual real life wife until this evening when we recorded this.
One of 2 at the time. One of 2 his real life wives.
One of 2
one
real
of his
life
currently
wives
real life wives.
We keep saying that. I have to look up while you keep talking. I have to look up when he actually ended up for real divorcing his first wife.
Yeah, I think
fun fact: it was after he married a second. I'll tell you that much.
And like, I'm watching this movie, and I'm just thinking, did he just want to tell me that he has sex with the woman from Weird Science? He could just tell me that. He didn't have to make a movie around that fact.
I mean, I think to be fair, that is the Steven Seagal movie. Is that you know that he's tough. That literally nobody can hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you kill him, you can't hurt him.
No,
and that he has sex with women.
That's
the 2 things you'll learn about him.
Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on, but we got this part. So I'm just looking at his Wikipedia page. We got this partially wrong. It says he was married to, and I'm going to butcher this, I'm so sorry, Miyako Fujitani in 1975 through 1986. So he divorced her in 1986. So it was 4 years before this movie came out. But then he was married to Adrienne LaRussa in 84 to 84. So it wasn't, we were wrong. It wasn't Kelly LeBrock that he was married to while he was married to his first wife. He was married to Adrienne LaRussa. There was a whole different
woman in between there.
Yeah.
I forgot about
And then Kelly LeBrock was his third wife, and he married her the year after he divorced his first wife. So there's still some really terrible overlap there, just with a different woman.
Yeah. So he had his first American wife he was married to at the same time as his wife, who, again, he abandoned. He just left in Japan to run his dojo along with
his children.
His one son. Oh, no, multiple children. But yes, okay, so he was freshly single and ready to mingle when he married Kelly LeBrock. But he did have 2 wives at the same time, that we will state for the record. Although, married and annulled within the same year with Adrienne LaRussa.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. I know we're getting off topic, but I'm just looking at his Wikipedia page, and there's a link to his website. And my god, is this website marvelous.
Oh, well, okay, real quick before that, so his second wife, Adrienne LaRussa, did you know that she was a childhood friend of actor Henry Winkler, the Fonz?
Really?
Oh, huh.
Yeah, look at that. She knew Henry Winkler.
Steven Seagal sits at a very interesting social web.
Yeah.
And he's at the bottom of the whole thing.
It's a whole social web, and he's like the bug that's trapped by the spider. So she was married in 1984 to Steven Seagal, and then annulled that same year, and then she married Robert French in 1987. And I hope the rest of her life was so much better than it was for Steven Seagal.
I hope everyone who has touched any of these films has had just like a wonderful life after these films.
Yeah.
That's all I can. Oh my god, Steven Seagal's official website is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Serious. StevenSeagal.com. I can't describe with words how 2006 this feels.
Hey, did you know that Steven and his band will be, future tense, will be touring Europe in 2014? His website let me know.
We still haven't listened to any of his music. We definitely need to download and
that's
listen
later.
to his
I have
music.
that in the, don't worry, I have that in the curriculum. That's built in.
Can we ask him? Can we like get one of his songs as like the official song for this thing?
Can we license it?
Yes.
We'll look into that.
Wow. Jeez, this is brutal to look at. Oh my god.
All right. So, are there any other horrible? Oh,
yeah. Sorry, back on track.
Something I actually forgot to mention. So,
yeah,
as a fan of the Metal Gear Solid series, directed by Japanese gaming auteur Hideo Kojima, the scene in this where he wakes up in the hospital and has to make the escape, I was very upset while we were watching this movie. I was so incredibly upset at how close this actually mirrors the opening scenes of Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain.
Oh no.
That in that one you wake up from, I believe, a 9-year coma, and he has to make his when he wakes up, a call is made that is intercepted, so agents come to kill him, and he has to make his escape.
Does he use a broom handle to like push elevator buttons?
So, funnily enough, the Steven Seagal version, they said, you don't even have to get out of bed, it's fine. You can just stay in bed. And Metal Gear Solid, they at least make you crawl along the floor. But you are aided by Jack Bauer himself. Kiefer Sutherland is helping you escape. And this one, Steven Seagal does it himself. So that's the key difference, is that he doesn't even get himself out of bed, but he does, everything himself.
I mean, 7 years in a coma, that's some pretty major muscle.
No, that's fair.
Whatever, it's muscle atrophy, is that what it's called?
And then there's a car chase.
Your muscles atrophy, and
which I was surprised this movie actually portrays somewhat realistically. Like, I would have been surprised if he just got up and he's like, who are these hospital trying to take me down? Just like karate. So a surprising amount of restraint on somebody's part making that movie. Except that, of course, at the end, it's the hospital, the car chase with the nurse, as opposed to riding on a horse with your like enemy / best friend / lover, escaping from like a big, huge egregious Moby Dick reference that's flying through the air like a big flaming whale. So my conspiracy theory, we have a lot of Steven Seagal conspiracy theories here. My conspiracy theory on this is that if you read like Hideo Kojima, he lays out his influences. The man loves movies. He'll tell you what movies. But I think, like any good Letterboxd reviewer, he has the movies that he talks about influencing him, and the ones that are like cool and good and like he won't get judged for, and maybe secretly there's some Seagal influence in there that he'll never admit to. Like when you look up his influences, it's like 2001: A Space Odyssey, like Escape from New York, like cool movies that people like, and that like cool hip cinephiles will have like good opinions on. And then, like, secretly while he was making that, he was just watching, like, Hard to Kill, like, 47 times in a row.
Oh, my God.
And you could hold him at gunpoint, and he would not admit to it.
Well, I can imagine him just, like, watching this movie and going, like, I could do this better.
Like, people always point out when I make like a really obvious allusion to something. No one's gonna point out this one. No one's gonna watch Steven Seagal and say, "No, wait a minute."
And
that's my
in Kojima's theoretical defense, I did watch some of these movies and think I could do this better. So like, I get it.
We'll give him that.
I get the impulse. Like
it's hard to do something good better. It's easy to do something bad.
Yeah, if I could just get a camcorder and half an hour in the hospital to just like roll around on a gurney.
I gotta be honest. I give this movie a lot of but the hospital scenes without the awful
big disclaimer, big asterisk.
Yeah, the hospital scenes that do not involve the over-sexualized nurse of him trying to escape people while like just having come out of a coma are actually pretty decent. Like I have to give it props for that.
I will say, but like the assassin that gets into the hospital who just like walks up to the counter and asks for personal information on.
I mean, it was the 80s. It was the early 90s. You could just
not just that, but he was just walking around the hallways with a gun out.
There was no security back then.
No.
If you're trying to bring a bomb into the airport, they give you a high five and a pat on the ass.
And to the movie's credit, I'm going to give the movie some credit. A doctor comes over to the nurse's station and is like, who was that guy?
Wow. Wow, the credit this movie deserves.
Like, why did you just let a stranger walk in here and just like take a list of patients? And
it's okay. The doctor asked who was that guy.
Why did you let him do that?
All right, but this is a pretty good segue. So what are our Letterboxd reviews and what are our...
Oh, gosh.
I went first last time.
Okay, so mine, I think, it's not even a quote that's said by a character. I have to give best quote to Black by Popular Demand, written on the mug that the nurse is holding. Black by Popular Demand is the best part of that movie. If we're going to give it to Seagal... the worst Seagal quote in this movie has to be, "I'm gonna take you to the bank, Senator Trent, to the blood bank." Because again, this guy, when they were writing this, they thought every 17-year-old was gonna think this is so cool, and it is so not cool. It is so much the opposite of cool. Like, it could never be cool. Either that, or whenever he goes to his old house that like now people are currently living in, posing as a real estate agent, and he just rips open a hole in the wall to get the videotape, and he says, "I'm sorry, but your contractor's doing a lousy job."
Yeah,
that's quote number 3. I'm sorry, my favorite quote is 3 quotes.
That's a solid list.
Black by Popular Demand.
You stole all the best quotes.
Honestly, I have nothing else.
That's why I had to go first. But I gave this 2 stars, 2 out of 5 stars. Slightly half a star better than the last one because it was just a bit more straightforward, and we had. Maybe because, we got in our groove. This was the second half of our double feature. I had a much better time watching this movie.
Yeah,
half
for
a
sure.
star better, at least. All right, next.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, so in a rare twist, I give this movie 1 star.
Hell yeah. Stand by your opinion, King. I ask you to change nothing this episode.
Thank you. So I gave it 1 star, mostly because when I went to go review it, I had waited like 2 or 3 days after watching it to review it. So that's what I thought. That was a big mistake because I couldn't remember anything about it. But and all I can remember about the movie, really, because I had to read the Wikipedia article to remind me of what happened in this movie. But I said the only reason I can remember the name of the main character is because 1, every other character shouts his name at least once.
Star.
And 2, it sounds like something from Threat Level Midnight.
Really? Nail on the head.
I remember watching this movie just thinking, Michael Scott from The Office would love this movie.
He absolutely would.
He would love this movie. And I said I would generously call this an action comedy. Because I think
it's definitely not meant to be, but...
Well, I think it has some funny moments. Like when he's trying... the hospital escape scene. Where he spends the whole thing on the gurney. I was laughing through a good chunk of that. I thought it was pretty funny.
No, you know what,
but
that's
then
fair.
once he leaves the hospital and it turns into an honest to goodness action movie, it becomes so boring and forgettable.
Yeah. All right, Hans.
So I gave this 2 stars, same as Above the Law. I was sort of a flat line for me. This one was less confusing, but equally frustrating to watch. Considering in my Letterboxd review, I have that the best line and the best part of the entire movie was also obviously the nurse holding the mug. I put in here for like this. He's supposed to be an honest cop, and he was, put into a coma, and his family was killed because he was an honest cop just doing his job. For an honest cop who's just trying to do his job, he has absolutely no problem stealing a lot of cars. I think there were 3 cars stolen by him in this movie.
He sold a car to a bunch of carjackers.
He just did like a random like roadside deal there where they like traded cars.
I'm just now remembering this scene.
Yeah, and just destroyed a whole bunch of property.
And he speaks a lot of bad Spanish in this movie.
Yeah, he does.
He operates above a lot of laws in this movie, whilst being pretty hard to kill.
Yeah. No, I'm remembering now, like...
Yeah.
His idea of race, I don't want to really get into it because I'm not an expert, but it's like really bad.
It's definitely towing a line somewhere.
Well, and in this one, I think though, actually out of all of them, this is the one where he's least confused about his own race. He's just kind of playing a generic American guy, so maybe that's why Kelly LeBrock has to be British. Like somebody has to be playing entirely outside their wheelhouse for like race, ethnicity, or nationality. Yeah. So this time he loaded it onto the love interest. Because in this one, he's just a guy.
Yeah.
And he speaks to Hispanics like it's a 1980s cop movie.
Wow.
Which, like, I shouldn't be surprised, I guess. But I guess in the year of our Lord 2023, watching these movies, I'm somehow surprised.
So much more enlightened future.
Yeah, that this is how people talk to each other.
Well, fun fact, it's only going to get worse with the next one. That's a little teaser for Marked for Death. It's only going to get way worse.
It gets way worse.
So much worse. All right,
just
but I think that...
over-stereotyping a lot.
Yeah, I think that is hard to kill.
That does it.
Turns out the memory of this movie was pretty easy to kill.
Yeah. You got the stinger. I was gonna have a stinger. I was gonna say hard to kill, more like hard to enjoy, more like hard to like. I don't know. I had one.
We can have multiple stingers.
Steven Seagal is hard to kill and incredibly hard to like.
Let's cut it there. That's perfect.
That means one of us has to die. Don't mention it, brother.